So this is what a mature fallow deer buck that is trying to rub the velvet off his antlers so his antlers can harden up for the year. And for the last few days he's been raking his antlers on anything that he can find, trying to get that velvet off of there.
Hoping they would, but
well, the cat is clearly exhausted from a hard morning of skating, but it is officially time for us to get this siding figured out with the stain. This section here by the back porch is where we're going to test everything, so I'm going to use the stripper and take some of the stain off a few of the boards. And then we're going to try the stain that Cedar and I have finally agreed on. So along the way with the board and batten siding, one of the things that I did is I moved it around after I stained it. So some pieces have stain on it and some pieces don't. These pieces here have stain, and we're going to try the stain stripper on them first. So after letting the stain stripper sit for 30 minutes, I followed the instructions and I got a bucket of water and a bristled brush and I went to scrubbing. And again, I find myself amazed at how good the wood looks after the stain has been removed.
All right, we're the Joneses from Mexico. We've come up here to see Red Poppy Ranch, and we've come 1,096 miles to ring the bell.
Current record holder.
all right.
Current record holder.
There you go. So that was my oldest sister and brother-in-law, also known as cuñado, and they came all the way from Mexico to ring that bell. So at the moment they hold the record at 1,096 miles. I know that I'm not going to have too many more bright sunshiny days like this where I can move dirt around with ease, and I'm waiting for the board and batten siding to dry out at the moment, so I decided this is the moment I would do the dirt work that I could for the new cabin that I want to build that will be used for you. Yes, you, the subscriber. We have talked about having a cabin of some sort where you guys could come and stay and get a taste of the off-grid life, and I think that's going to be this cabin here. This particular spot right here is one of the most accessible spots on our property. So if we were going to put a cabin in where people could come and stay, this would be one of the easiest places to get to. So that's part of the reason why I've decided to do it here. Unfortunately, there were a couple of trees in the way, but both of those trees had health issues and they were going to die, so they're going to be this year's firewood. But in the meantime, the goal is to get the dirt work done and the foundation stones in place for this cabin before it cools off a whole lot. When I was 8 years old, I would spend a week with my best friend on the Navajo Indian reservation where his grandfather had a very large ranch. And on this ranch was a traditionally built Navajo hogan where my friend Brian's great-grandmother not only lived in for her long life, but she would also die in that hogan. So I'm going to build this cabin using that traditionally built Navajo hogan that I saw when I was 8 years old as inspiration. Looks like I interrupted another one of Coco's naps, but Cedar has been asking me for a screen door for the front of the house for quite some time, and before I do the stain, I want to get this done. Now this is a big box store screen door that I paid $85 for, so I'm hoping it lasts a while, but before I go and hang it on the house, I want to make sure that everything lines up correctly and the door opens and closes as it should. I looked for a long time before I finally found a wood screen door that I thought went well with our house. The second that I got this screen door hung in place and I could see what it looked like, I knew I waited about 5 years too long to get this done. Not only does the look of the screen door go perfectly with our house, but I can tell this is something that's going to be used every single night, especially on these warm summer evenings. I'm going to give the screen door the Red Poppy Ranch treatment with a coat of black paint, then a little bit of distressing, then some clear coat. I like to take a nice sharp razor blade and hit the edges that are most likely to get worn down first. It makes it look a little older. You know, I have to say, for less than $150, I got more than I expected to get. I just can't wait to see how Cedar and the kids use it. Look at it outside. There's a few little spots that ain't really nice. So this is the board that had the most stain on it that I kind of used as the guinea pig. And you can see everywhere it's now had about 12 hours to dry overnight. See, I missed that one. I need to do that one again. There's a couple down there that I need to do real quick. So the plan is to use this area as our, again, as the guinea pig. To make sure that we really like this stain before I do the whole front of the house, I am going to continue stripping the second story. The first story's done. I have one little strip across the bottom that I need to take care of. I'm going to start stripping the second story, but today is the day that we decide whether or not this Colorado brown was the right decision. There was one other color that we were looking at, which was Lakeside brown, which was slightly darker than this, but I want the different colors of wood to kind of come through. So I'm really blown away at how well the stain stripper, that board had like, I think 3 coats on it. So I can see what it's going to take to get some of this heavier stain off. But I feel like this is something I should be able to get done before there's snow on the ground. So real quickly, I'm going to go over it one more time, spray it off, then we're going to start staining. Cedar has waited long enough to get the stain fixed on the front of the house, and I think we finally agree on the color of stain that we're going to use. So a little bit more stripper, then here we go. Using the pressure washer to remove the stain stripper works great, but you have to be careful because you can damage the wood with the high pressure of the water. I'm only going to do a little bit at a time. Burn barrel with all the little tiny stuff. So I'm almost scared to look, but I'm pretty sure this is the right color, and this is the color we should have chosen from the beginning. The biggest difference between the original Cape Cod Gray and the Lakeside Brown is just the simple fact that the Doug fir that we used for siding has a natural brown in it, and so the stain looks much better. Instead of doing multiple coats, I decided to follow the instructions on the can and do one good coat. So I'm putting it on pretty thick, but I'm making sure that there's nothing dripping or running down the walls. But I can tell you, again, because of the natural colors that are in the Doug fir siding, this is the stain that we should have originally picked. So I know there's a limited number of days before it's going to be too cold to put up the stain. So I'm going to work as hard as I can, taking one side of the house at a time. And I'm first going to go over all of the board and batten siding and fix anything that needs to be fixed, like I did here on the front of the house. And then once I'm happy with the woodwork, I'm going to get it stained. But I'm not going to rush through this like I have with other things in the past. I want to get this house completely stained so I can forget about it for a long time, but once the house is done, naturally the shop's going to need to be stained too. So every time I take the lid off the stain and I get another cup to work with, I make sure and mix the stain as thoroughly as I possibly can. And this is something that I didn't do the first time when I used the Cape Cod Gray, but I can see now that mixing it regularly is keeping everything consistent. Every year, Cedar does her best to find the freshest, locally grown peaches that she can find, and then bottle up enough to get us through till next year's peaches show up. She's done this for so many years now that she knows how much to do. And at this exact moment, I think we have one bottle of peaches left from last year. The more Cedar does these things like canning and bottling and gardening and making bread and all of the wonderful things that she's learned to do over the years, the more I am grateful that she knows how to do these things, because it seems people are forgetting some pretty important things that we're most certainly going to need in the future. I've got about 12 major projects outside that I'd like to get done before it freezes or before it gets too cold to be outside. But in the meantime, I'm going to try and get as much of the siding finished with the stain that I possibly can. And I'm going to get this piece of ground over here prepped and ready to work on all winter long. This next week, if all goes well, I'm going to bring the first load of logs back here to Red Poppy Ranch. I'm using these pressure treated posts just to give me an idea of how big this roundhouse is going to be when I'm finished. Thank you for stopping by to see what we're doing, and we will see you guys in a week.